Hi, welcome to our second open evening. Thank you to those of you who are already able to join us for our first set of open evenings. Hopefully they gave you an insight into our school, our ethos, our values and our departments. Today is about making sure that we cover any questions that you may have had in that time, and for those of you who are unable to join us to previous open evenings. I have sent out recordings of those open evenings, so if you haven't received them, please send me an email, openevening@pencathhigh.org, and I'll make sure those recordings are sent to you. Tonight is about making sure, as I say, we cover any questions that you may have, and it gives you a bit of an insight from our pupils as well as the staff perspective. So from me, it'll go to some views from our pupils and what they think about what it's like to be at our school and what they enjoy about our school. And then it'll then go to Mr. Carlin, who'll cover hopefully any questions you may have raised with him between the last open evenings and today, and also to cover a little bit more insight into the kind of education we hope to offer your child. As last time and as always, our questions are really, really important to us, and we want to make sure that we help you make this really big decision. So as you go through, you'll see at the side a chance for you to ask any questions. As we go through, I'll make sure that those are answered. If they don't get answered as we go along, please don't think we're ignoring you. We'll cover them at the end in our live question and answer session. So hopefully you'll get a little bit more insight, but if it doesn't, if it still leaves you with some questions that you don't feel comfortable to ask today or don't pop into your head till later on tonight, please email me at openevening@pencathhigh.org and I'll make sure they're answered. So thank you so much for taking the time to spend this evening with us and to find out a little bit more about our school. So we'll go now to some views from our pupils. Thank you.
At Pencath High School, all the teachers are really friendly and they always help you with all of your work.
If I have any problems, I feel safe to tell any of the teachers, and this school feels very secure, or if I have any learning problems or anything like that, it'll be sorted instantly. And learning is very good in the school as it's they approach it in an easier way to understand, as I'd imagine other schools. So yeah.
Okay, so it's really great to be here. It's a bit confusing sometimes because it's, well, big. The lessons are really good, the teachers are funny, and I think you should come here because it offers great education.
Our school is great because the teachers are very helpful and help the students get the opportunities that they need.
There's a lot of good teachers and great learning.
Pencath High School is a high school that has many courses and ranges of opportunities. I like high school because I make a lot of friends, and hopefully you'll make a lot of friends too. And if you like the idea of having a good job, then you should probably pick this school.
This school is good for learning and making friends. They have the perfect resources so you can learn properly.
At Pencath High School, the teachers care about me and care about the progress that I'm making in lessons. They strive to get the best possible grades that I can get.
Our school is really good because teachers help you when you need it. Hi, I'm Gordon. So, something good about the school. We have Teams. Basic Teams is a Microsoft app that we use so we can, if we're off school for some good reason, any reason, there's work on there. We have a teacher who's either on Teams or either using it in class, which is really good. So we can go onto the file and we can use that to have work, just outside school, in school, whatever. And you can ask teachers if you're doing homework, if you want questions to be answered. It's good.
Good evening and welcome to Pencath High School. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Mindful that many parents who join us this evening will have already sort of seen one of our live presentations, over the course of the last month or so. So we've put this extra event on really because some parents had missed those or hadn't had the opportunity to attend some of those events, and they wanted us to be able to repeat the event so that we could really relay some of the key messages. Obviously tonight is important for you to support your decision making in making the choice for your child's school over the next 5 years, and we wanted to make sure we gave you every opportunity to interact with us and ready for us to deliver the information that you may require. So I'm just going to run through some information now about the school, just talking about where the school's been, the sort of the place on the journey they're on at the moment, and where it is that we're looking to go further down the line. And then following this presentation, we'll be able to take your questions and hopefully answer those in a live session. So I'm just going to flick over to a PowerPoint. Just bear with me a second. So really, we wanted to be able to provide parents with the opportunity to hear some of the key messages, perhaps for parents who've not been able to attend one of our virtual open evenings or indeed the physical open evening last year when pupils were in year 5. And we just wanted to be able to really talk to you about our core values, our beliefs, really what the culture of the school is all about, and also to talk about our journey really over the last 2 to 3 years and the transformational work staff have undertaken to move this school forward and put it in a much healthier position. So I do often talk about my own Penketh journey, really because I've been here for such a long time. I started in 2004, and I've been fortunate enough to have a number of opportunities to develop my career at the school. And ultimately, 4 years ago, I was appointed as principal at a time when the school was probably at its lowest ebb. So that was difficult for a new principal and a relatively young principal at that stage. You know, I'll be perfectly honest. But it was an incredibly proud moment for me, not least because the school means a great deal to me. The young people mean a huge amount to me. The school community, likewise, also means a great deal to me, and so do the staff. A lot of our staff have been here for a long time. I know how exceptionally capable they are, much like our pupils. Their quality is second to none. And so to be able to work closely and collaboratively with our staff was something that appealed greatly to me. And it was also something that at that time I was vastly aware that the school wasn't where it should be. We weren't providing a good enough provision for our young people, a good enough educational experience, and we needed to do better. And I felt really, having been here for a long time, understanding the school and the pupils and the area and the staff so well, that I was well placed and had a good understanding of what it is that we needed to do and what the vision needed to be, really to rapidly move this school on. I was fortunate enough to be blessed with an exceptional staff and you know, an exceptional body of pupils who were extremely capable. So really, it was an easy decision for me to make and a very proud moment for me as well. And this was not something really I previously discussed or thought of it in a particular way, but parents will be aware that we've undertaken a huge number of tours in the last few weeks, and we've been really pleased to do so. I always say that it's important to get into schools, really to get a good feel of the place, meet some of the people, really to support your decision making as to whether or not you feel that school is right for your child, and whether or not you feel that that's the right place for them to grow and develop over the next 5 years. And on one of the tours, I was talking to one of the parents who'd indicated that it was quite refreshing that we'd spoken about the fact that in the summer of 2017, you know, at our lowest ebb, we talk about the fact that wasn't good enough. And I think it's really important that we own our failings, because obviously understanding that first and foremost is the platform that you need, you know, in order to push forward. And no one at the school was under the illusion that the position that we were in was a healthy one. Obviously, we had poor results, our worst ever outcomes in summer 2017, which was the summer just before I'd taken over. So that was a tricky place to start. Conduct at the school was poor, and obviously that was directly linked to results. We had a poor learning focus. You know, pupils were potentially not driven around academic pursuits, which is obviously crucial in a school, and ultimately that led to a poor reputation. And again, you know, I'm under no illusion that we were in an unhealthy place, and really that was reflected in the perception of the local community. But I think it's important that we own those failings, that we recognise those things, so that we can collectively take action to drive the school forward. And I think, you know, we'll never shy away from those things. It's important that we realise that and we recognise that. We'd never pretend that wasn't the case, and quite simply, for our wonderful young people, that wasn't good enough. So really, when I took on the headship in September 2017, we were coming from a tricky place, a place we didn't want the school to be at, obviously in terms of outcomes and operationally on a day-to-day basis. How people were engaging with the curriculum is not really where we wanted it to be. And so I was very clear that I wanted to outline a vision for the school that I felt resonated with the fabric of Penketh High School and the things that I'd seen that were positive over the course of sort of my sort of 13, 14 years at the school at that point, and that had possibly been lost over the preceding years. And also a vision that I think resonates with me personally, and what I'm looking for in terms of education for my own children. And the first one is obviously to develop pupils academically. That goes without saying. We are an academic institution. You send your children here to get an education, and we want them leaving here with a good standard of education, a good set of results, and a good understanding of a wide and academically challenging curriculum that serves them well for future challenges at college, university, employment. But we also want to develop them holistically as well. So we want them to have an opportunity to sample wider experiences and opportunities that maybe give them a different skill set, that make them rounded individuals, and really set them apart when they go to college and university interviews or employment interviews, and potentially as well really foster passions for life, things that will extend into adulthood, that they've got a passion for because they experience those things at school. And ultimately, what we want to make sure is that they have good, positive life chances. And obviously, if pupils do well academically, if they perform well, if they get a good set of qualifications, and they've got a good wider skill set, that will result in positive life chances. And that's ultimately what we want for our young people. So really, what sort of changed at the school in the last sort of 3 years? You know, we've had relatively transformational work that's been undertaken on a rapid timescale, really. From the place we were at in the summer of 2017 to outlining that vision to staff in the inset of September 2017 to this point now. And I think there's a number of things that we can point to. The first being the culture of the school has significantly changed. It's now one of high expectations and standards, both in relation to engagement in the classroom, both in relation to conduct, uniform, attendance, all of those aspects that really make a successful school. We have those high expectations and standards. And I think what's really clear now is that our pupils have always been capable, but perhaps we didn't demand the very best from them. We didn't demand the things that they were capable of, and our expectations are now very much aligned with those capabilities. And with that has come a very clear learning focus. We have key messages to pupils around their responsibility towards themselves, towards their own success, and to their future selves, in order that they are successful. They do challenge themselves academically, so that they're well prepared for the challenges in later life, but also that they taste that success and get a good set of qualifications in order to provide an excellent foundation for those future challenges at college, university, and employment. And I think the other key message to be put to pupils is they've got a responsibility to their peers as well, people who want to work hard and do well. And so they've got a responsibility not to disrupt, because ultimately that will be impacting on other people. So we don't tolerate disruption. We have that very clear learning focus, and really to help us monitor that, we have a learning score system where each pupil is given a rating for every single lesson, and we can monitor that on a lesson by lesson basis for every single pupil, not just groups of pupils. And I'm pleased to report that 98.6% of all of those scores on a routine basis represent good or outstanding learning. So that really does serve to demonstrate the learning focus. And I think parents who follow us on Twitter will hopefully get a sense of that. Through some of the posts, they can see that level of purpose in the classroom from year 7 all the way through to year 11. And one thing we're disappointed about this year actually is not being able to take people on tours of the school during the day, because we can validate those messages, and parents who've been on tours previously will see that level of calm and purpose around the school site on a day-to-day basis. Our curriculum is very much aligned to the capabilities of pupils. 72.6% of our pupils undertook the EBAC this year, which is a suite of heavily focused academic subjects, including humanities, languages, at least 2 sciences, maths and English. And realistically, I think in the past we've probably been guilty of being perceived as being a sort of creative arts school or an arts college, and I know we had that status many years ago, but really now the school is very much academically focused across all subjects, you know, to the point where our maths department, for example, are now one of the top 3 performing in the town. Have just been nominated for a national award, which we'll talk about later. So our curriculum is very academic. That's geared towards the capabilities of pupils, and that's not to say they have to undertake that academic route, because there is creative options that they can adopt as well. But our curriculum is very much geared towards the capabilities of pupils now, which is crucial for us. We have a comprehensive professional development program, which is very much focused on the holistic aspect of developing staff. So it's related to career stage, it's related to developing future leaders, it's related to the very best pedagogy and really rooted in research and evidence-based practice. And that's something that Ofsted recognised, and certainly something that we've been working on, and working with external partners as well. So we worked with the Ambition Institute, who've actually commented that they can't believe sort of the holistic nature of our CPD program and how intensive it is for staff. But ultimately, that's paid dividends for us over the last 2 years, and I think that's only been successful because staff have had the appetite to develop their practice on behalf of our young people. We also have a comprehensive enrichment program, which has been, you know, fantastic for the school. Ordinarily, we had 62 enrichment clubs running in March of last year before lockdown started, ranging from Chinese Mandarin, Swedish, golf, cross-country running, art club, retro gaming club, coding club, chess club, you name it. We sort of had a full range of opportunities for pupils to engage in, and really, again, just going back to that idea of giving them opportunities to develop those sort of passions for life, and broaden their skill set. And you know, we're very focused on providing those opportunities to sort of holistically develop pupils and give them opportunities to maybe sample things that they wouldn't ordinarily undertake, really just to stretch that curriculum beyond the classroom and put learning to practice in a different way. And I think the last thing to talk about is our collective approach. So this is not a vision that I push, it's a vision that we push, and the pupils have bought into it as well. I have to say that they've been exceptional over the sort of course of the last 3 years, as have the staff. The staff are dedicated, talented, committed, and their quality really does shine through. And all the things that have happened over the last 3 years and the transformational work that's gone on here is because the staff really have driven that, and it has been a collective approach, and we are all sort of collaboratively working every day to make sure that we're doing, you know, whatever we can to improve the quality of provision and the educational experience for our young people. And I can't thank the staff enough really for their dedication and efforts on behalf of our pupils. So really, what's been the impact of this work? And you know, ultimately, it's great to be able to say we've undertaken all of these strategies to really drive improvements, but we have to see the improvements. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about what impact this has had over such a short space of time. So the first thing to say is that we've had a climate of improving results, 2 consecutive significant uplifts in our outcomes, which ultimately resulted in our best ever outcomes in 2019. And I'm sure some parents will be asking why we're not talking about the outcomes in 2020. I will do, but I think it's really important to talk about validated outcomes. Ultimately, what happened this year is pupils didn't sit exams because of lockdown, and so therefore it's a little bit different this year. And I know some schools have made claims about their outcomes and sort of talked about their analysis of their performance. I will talk about that later on, but I think it's really important to talk about those validated outcomes first and foremost. So we achieved our best ever outcomes in 2019. That represented our best ever progress, our best ever proportion of pupils in a year group getting both English and maths at grade 4 and above, our best ever proportion of pupils getting 5 GCSEs at A star to C, as it was, or 9 to 4 as it is now, including English and maths, our best ever average grade. No matter sort of what category of result you want to look at from 2019, every aspect was best ever, and that really does sort of serve to demonstrate the level of impact that staff have had with the transformational work they've undertaken over the course of the last 2 years. So this obviously demonstrates just in terms of our progress and how we're judged as a school. In terms of progress stated, the overall measure, so the performance of pupils across a suite of 8 subjects, and they're broken down into 4 categories of maths, English, EBAC, which is your study of languages, science, and also humanities, and also your open basket, so any other qualifying subject effectively. And you can see that in every single category we've made significant improvements across the period of those 2 years, and so our best ever outcomes in all of those categories. But again, as promised, if we relate that to include the 2020 outcomes, again, what you can see is that we've got improvements across those categories again. And again, there would have been improvements in every single one of those categories. So, we're confident that the results that our pupils had achieved would have been the outcomes. We undertook a very rigorous moderation process, not just across ourselves, but also across the schools within our multi-academy trust, TCAT. And we're very confident that we would have made further significant gains in our outcomes this year, which would have been pleasing. Obviously, I'm mindful of the fact that pupils didn't undertake exams, so I don't talk about that too much. I know some of the schools have, but I think it's important that we reference the fact that we would have seen further improvements again this year. But of course, we're also very pleased that we achieved a good this year during our Ofsted inspection. I think what's really important to note is that's the first time the school had been judged as a good provider since 2007. So it'd been a number of years, and really that probably serves to demonstrate the slide that the school had been on. So not only over a course of 2.5 years, because ultimately our Ofsted inspection was in February of 2020. So that's really only 2.5 years since we started sort of the process of improvements, if that makes sense. It just demonstrates, the rapidity of improvement, but also the transformational work that staff have undertaken to get to that point so quickly. And we were really pleased with the report, very strong report, which is available on our school website. You can also get it off the Ofsted website as well. But it really just serves to demonstrate the impact of the work that staff had undertaken. And I just want to really talk about a few of the key bits within the report that I think just serve to demonstrate the work that staff have undertaken. So Ofsted were keen to point out that they recognise that staff at the school work very hard, and that contributes to the good quality of education that our pupils receive. They were also keen to point out that pupils now benefit from a good quality of education day in and day out, and that's really important to us, because when we set out the vision in September of 2017, we really talked about the fact that we've been at the school, and there'd been times where it felt a bit sort of as though a lot of our resource and time and effort went into supporting exam classes in year 11, which is great because they need that support. But also we need to make sure that pupils from day 1 in year 7 are getting a really good quality of education, because ultimately we don't need to put as many interventions and all of that hard work in place in year 11 if pupils have had a good standard of education right from day 1. And we spent a huge amount of time rewriting curriculums as departments and as subject areas in the background across a 12-month period, really making sure that our curriculums were well thought out, were interleaved, and were sort of well mapped out and considered in terms of how we can guide pupils through a learning journey from day 1 in year 7 all the way through to year 11, and spanning those 2 key stages. So it was really crucial to us, and pleasing that Ofsted picked out that pupils benefit from a good quality of education day in, day out, whether that be day 1 in year 7 all the way through to the end of year 11, and that was evidence in lessons, and we were thrilled with that. They also commented that the teachers helped pupils to remember by placing emphasis on ambitious and interesting activities, and that these opportunities stretch and excite pupils' thinking so that they achieve especially well. And I think that's important because Ofsted recognised that our pupils do achieve especially well, but I think also really serves to indicate the offer that we provide to pupils, and the sort of interesting nature of lessons and the curriculum that we provide, but also how ambitious it is, and sort of how that links back to that idea of our curriculum being linked to the capabilities of pupils. So pupils will experience an interesting day-to-day experience, and they will be stretched, will excite their thinking, again just to support that level of success. And the last thing to point out here is that the head teacher and trustees promote the highest of ambitions for all pupils. They are determined to provide the best for them, and that is absolutely true. But I think it's really important to point out in that statement that it's not just me and the trustees who are determined to provide the best. It's all staff. Our staff are absolutely dedicated to pupils, and we are determined to provide the very best educational opportunities and opportunities beyond that for our young people. And I see that every single day with the commitment that the sort of staff put in. And I'm just so proud of what they've achieved in such a short space of time. And we had some further really good news in the last couple of weeks that the Government Initiatives IQ, who are a company who collate and publish government documents and government reports, have recognised us in their education report for 2020 as 100 top performing and improving school. And we're thrilled by that, really. It sort of just serves again to further validate, following on from Ofsted, all the work that the staff have undertaken. And we're really thrilled with that news coming through. And I guess, what's important to point out at this stage is all this does is whet our appetite to sort of continue to strive to seek those improvements and provide even further improvements on behalf of our young people. And it's been further, really positive news again this half term in that our maths departments, as I mentioned before, have been nominated for a national award, so the National TESS Awards, and they've been shortlisted on a group of 10 schools for maths team, department, or individual of the year. And again, I think this really does serve to demonstrate the work that they've undertaken over the course of certainly the last 3 years, but possibly the last 4. Anyone who's read our Ofsted report from 2015, from 2013, from 2010, will see that maths was highlighted as a problem by Ofsted on three separate occasions, and really the work that they've done over the last 4 years has not only resulted in them being one of the best performing departments in Warrington, but also sort of surpassing national expectations and ultimately now being recognised on a national basis, shortlisted in this prestigious award. And I think again what's really important to point out about the shortlist is we're the only school in the Northwest to be nominated, so we're absolutely thrilled with that, and that's much deserved recognition for the maths department here. So pupils, what can you expect when you arrive at Penketh High School in September 2021? Well, the first thing to say is, as we've just touched on, something that Ofsted recognised, you'll be greeted by a dedicated and committed staff. Staff at this school are second to none. They are so welcoming, and they will do absolutely anything they can in their power to make sure you've got the very, very best provision and every chance for success, both academically and holistically. You'll also get fantastic support networks and pastoral care. I routinely invite external both agencies, including the local authority, to come in and really run their eye over our support networks and our pastoral care services, just to make sure we're giving you the very best opportunities. And you will get a wonderful care package, because ultimately there'll be times during your adolescence when you struggle and there'll be things that you find difficult. It's important that we make sure you get the support that you need to get you through those difficult periods, and we will do that together. You'll get an exciting curriculum, which again was recognised by Ofsted, and I'm sure if you follow us on Twitter, you'll see some of the amazing things that the current Year 7s have been doing. You'll get extracurricular and enrichment activities. Obviously, we've talked about the 62 enrichment clubs that run. You'll have access to all of those things, and we're always looking for new ideas. For example, Year 11 last year asked if we could have some weightlifting circuit training. We brought a weightlifting gym in to come and do some work with the Year 11. So we'll always try and do what we can to make sure we cater to the things that you want. You also have got access to the first makerspace in a UK school, Spark at Penketh, which is taking on a life of its own and now working and leading the digital curriculum in Warrington, supporting the libraries to offer holiday sessions as much as anything else. But you will get a digital curriculum experiences 6 times a year. Year 7 to 10 will go into Spark and undertake some additional sessions that really bring learning to life. And if you've been in one of the primary schools that have accessed Spark, you'll have a good idea of what that's like, including robotics, drone building, coding, etc. what we need from you is that you need to be prepared to be successful, come here with the right attitude and a desire to want to be successful and really to want to improve yourself, and also be prepared to become a valued member of a school community. Our community means a great deal to us. It's part of the reason why we lowered our PAN, our pupil admission number, to 180 this year. We've done that really because we want that community feel. We want everybody to be known. We know our pupils so well. We want good relationships with your families to really help you and guide you through what can be a difficult time anyway growing up, but also to make sure that we guide you through what is an important part of your life in terms of educationally and setting you up for a good, positive life. So be prepared to become a valued member of what is an important aspect of our school, which is our community. So hopefully this evening we've been able to give you lots of information to support your sort of decision-making process, because tonight really does represent the start of a process where you select the school that you feel is going to be appropriate for your child, and obviously an environment in which you feel as though they can thrive. I would also say though that obviously you're a big part of that as parents. You know, the school that's right for you, a school where you feel as though you can build relationships, because we do have a sort of homeschool partnership so that we can work collaboratively to support your child, to give them the very best opportunities over the course of the next 5 years, and ultimately set them up for success, because that's what we all want. We've got that shared aspiration for your child. I'd recommend that you come and see us in action. I'm mindful of the fact your forms sort of have to be in during the half-term period at the end of October, but we do have a couple of days left. We have extended our tour dates due to demand, and we might be able to accommodate a few more tours. You can sort of book a tour by contacting openevening@penkethhigh.org. Tours are slightly different this year in that they're not taking place during the day, which we're disappointed about, but obviously the COVID restrictions mean that those take place after school. I would always recommend going to see a school. It's a bit like buying a house, I guess. You will get a feel for it. It will give you a sense of what the people are like. It'll give you a sense of what the feeling around the school is. I always tell a story. I took my own son to see some schools last year, and I was pretty convinced and dead set as to what school he was going to, until I actually went to the school, and I didn't get a good feeling at all. The core values for me of that school didn't resonate with my own. It was not a place I could see him sort of thriving in, and ultimately I made the decision to send him to a different school, which was completely different to where, to my position sort of at the start of the process. So I would always recommend you go and see a school where you possibly can. I think that will really help to support your decision making, and also validate some of the messages that are coming out of those schools from open evenings as well. The last thing I would recommend is following us at Penketh School on Twitter, not because we want more followers necessarily, but because it will give you an insight into what daily life is like at the school. We tweet multiple times a day normally. You don't have to be a member of Twitter. You can just Google Twitter and then @Penketh School, and you'll, because we're a public account, you'll be able to just view that. But also, if you want to go to our school website, at the bottom of the homepage, the most recent tweets from some of our accounts are on there as well. So we just want to thank you very much really for taking the time this evening. And obviously thank you for those people who've undertaken tours. I'm very much looking forward really to taking questions in the live QA in a moment, and again just thank you very much for your time, and we'll surely be taking your questions. Thank you. Okay, so we've reached Jill and I are now together in the one space. We're going to sort of take your questions as they come. We've had a few sort of common themes, Jill, is probably the best way to describe it. But obviously we're keeping an eye on the text console as well. A text console, that is the official phrase. The text console in terms of questions that are asked by parents. So the first thing that comes up is around the EBAC curriculum. That's been a common theme I've spoken to parents about on the tour, and they've just sort of said, is there a set curriculum that we sort of direct pupils towards? Not necessarily. There is a wide varying sort of degree of options that pupils can take, and creative options that pupils can choose. A number of our pupils have risen to the challenge that we've sort of set them, and do pursue undertaking some of those academic subjects. So, for example, a number of our pupils, 72.6% in fact this year, undertook the EBAC curriculum, which is a study of maths, English, science, MFL, and a humanity as well. And a lot of that is by choice. So there's no set curriculum. It's academically rigorous because that's in line with our pupils' capabilities, but there are wider options that people can pick from as well. Another sort of theme that's come up, Jill, is around forms and setting for year sevens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of when a lot of my work happens over summer, working with the year 6 teachers. I spend a lot of time working, making sure I find out everything about our pupils before they come. So that's not just academic things, it's about their interests, it's about their friendships, and we place our pupils together by friendship groups. Because we think that's the best way for them to start and feel comfortable. You know yourself from working, unless you're happy and comfortable, you don't get the best work from them, and we found that to be really successful. And they'll spend a little bit of time getting to know their form and working together as a form before setting takes place. That can vary slightly and a little bit different this year because of the situation we've been in, but it's been really, really successful, giving our pupils that little family within school as well. And it's a good crossover between that primary and secondary way of working.
Yeah, some questions have come around how do we set. Obviously, the SATs are important to us, but also we look at baseline assessments and the progress that pupils make with us once they join. I think it's really important to point out as well that that's not necessarily a fixed process.
No.
So obviously, pupils spend a long time with us, and setting can change based on performance and progress that they make whilst they're with us at school. Remote offer, we had some questions around our remote offer, which I think is a really good question. Really, we've taken a view like we do with everything to do with our teaching and learning and our pedagogy. It's all evidence-based, and it's all based and rooted in the best research. So if you look at the Education Endowment Fund Foundation's home learning framework, for example, there's some very clear strategies around the best process for remote learning, which are sort of our remote offer is based around. So pupils will have a booklet in school that they're working through this year in each one of those subjects. They have a digital or physical copy, or both in some cases, that they have access to at home. And what they can do if for example they're self-isolating, or if they're off for a period of time, they can continue to work through that booklet. We still provide expert teacher input because we create all of the resources that are shared in class that are sort of delivered by the classroom teacher. We create a digital version of, including teacher input and spoken direction, which allows the pupils to continue to work through that booklet so they can really keep pace with their peers who are working in school. That's all facilitated through Microsoft Teams. All of our pupils have a school log-on, which gives them access to email, a suite of office-based applications, including Word, PowerPoint, Excel, for example, and also Microsoft Teams, which allows them to communicate with their classroom teachers and also access those resources as well. So pretty secure remote offer, really, and I'm thrilled that pupils are really enjoying getting involved with that.
That's something I, as a classroom teacher, I find really, really useful, not just for those ones who are self-isolating, but it gives us a much more open dialogue as well to support them in the learning. Some pupils don't feel as confident talking in class and asking questions, and it gives them another option of another way to be in contact with us. And I found that particularly this half term really, really useful.
Really good questions coming around. What's the average class size? And again, that would depend on a couple of things. So for example, we always look at needs of classes, and we always look at levels of support that classes would need. So obviously, where we identify that a particular class maybe requires more intensive support, that class might be smaller than our normal classes. So that would depend on the class, I guess, is the easiest answer. But on average, I guess I can say it's around 24, 25 is the average class size. What kind of support do we offer children who may be struggling?
Sorry,
that went off quickly.
That's my fault.
Struggling with maths and English. So there's a number of things that we sort of offer. Again, it would depend on the individual pupil. So some arrive at the school and need some intensive support to to get to age-related expectation, I think is the best way to describe it. Obviously, what we've had in the last couple of months in particular is identifying pupils who have maybe struggled to make the progress that we'd expect in some aspects of lockdown, and so we're working hard with those pupils. So there's a number of things going on. So one example is year 11. I've been given a 6th period built into their day to get some further sort of tuition with their classroom teachers across their spread of subjects. We also do intervention sessions within our Orchard Centre, looking at literacy and numeracy for individual pupils. So again, it would depend on the individual, but we also take a group strategy as well where necessary.
I think the baseline testing that we do really supports us with our individual interventions, because we can be really specific about their needs. So, for example, if it is English, we don't necessarily just go, well, they need extra support. In English, we drill down into what that means. Is it their reading? Is it their writing? And we can really support that individual pupil. It's not about a broad stroke in terms of our interventions. And I think that's getting to know our pupils, particularly as they come into year 7, and particularly that relationship with the year 6 teachers. We can be really specific on areas that we can continue that support. And we always find out those pupils who have had support during primary school. We find out what that support has been, the success of that support, and we look to see how we can continue that support as they come through. It's never going to be exactly the same as primary school because we're a different setting, but what it allows us to do is to give some continuity to that support that they've had before.
Another good question around, do we offer a challenge for G&T pupils, so gifted and talented pupils? Yeah, we do that in a number of ways, really. Again, one is obviously related to our pedagogy, and obviously we'll cater our teaching for the pupils that are sort of in front of us. So depending on the level of scaffolding that is maybe required to get to a particular outcome, so that would always influence our sort of teaching. Obviously our curriculum is very much based around, is very academic and pushes and stretches learners. So, for example, a lot of our gifted and talented, as you've labelled it there, but our capable pupils will go on to do things like further maths, as well as just GCSE maths as well, and that's well received not only by the pupils but the colleges, I have to say. We also offer other courses to stretch them. So, for example, we offer a finance course to our year 11s to take as an additional voluntary credit. I don't know if credit's the right word, but additional course to take on. And then obviously some of our enrichment activities are also geared towards and focused on some more of the academic pursuits. So Spark, for example, in particular, a lot of that was born out of some aspirational work with John Moores University, and really getting pupils or giving pupils the opportunity to work in the realms of some of the stuff that you would do at degree level, or maybe some of the topics that you would do at degree level, really to sort of bring learning to life and give them an idea that science is not just a science curriculum per se that they would study in Key Stage 3 or Key Stage 4, but ultimately what it can sort of lead on to as well. So there's a number of things that we do to offer that additional stretch and additional challenge, not just in the classroom, but beyond as well.
And also we have like the partnerships and trips and things as well, don't we? For
of course, to universities.
Yes.
And yeah, absolutely. Has anyone got any other? In fact, another issue I was going to raise that a couple of people have raised, and it's not really something I'm going to focus on too much, but obviously, we are aware that some parents have raised the issue of potential barriers previously to come to the school, maybe in the buildings and the perception of what the buildings might be like. I'm really pleased to report that when parents come here on those tours, shocked is probably the wrong word, but a few people are sort of happy that actually when they get into the building, they can see that the interior fabric is not what they expected. It's obviously a really comfortable environment for pupils, and I think what parents recognise is that perhaps I'll be the first to admit, the maybe daunting presence of the school in terms of some of those maybe 60s style buildings. Actually, when you get into the school building itself, you can see that it's not like that in terms of the internal environment. I think the other thing to point out really is a big focus for us has been what's gone on inside the buildings as well, in terms of what we've driven improvement wise for not only inside the classroom but also with those holistic developments of the school as well. We will always, of course, push to get investments and improvements.
I think we may be questioned. Any more questions?
Okay, I don't think we've got any more questions coming through. We'll give people maybe a couple of seconds while we summarise. If any questions do come through now, we will of course answer them. But really, from Jill and I, we just want to say sort of thank you very much. Hopefully it's been informative and useful. Obviously we wanted to put this extra event on because of the demand, really, so hopefully you found that useful, and if anything does come to mind beyond the session, please do feel free to email openevening@pencathhigh.org, and we'll always get back to you to ask questions as well, and really thank you so much for your time and joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.